From Reykjavik, the national park is about a 4.5 hour drive. It started off incredibly green and then became a moonscape of volcanic rock. The volcanic flows were recent enough that there's no actual soil formation here yet. It's just some moss that will eventually become soil that we see here.
And don't step on the moss, it's very sensitive and protected. We saw footprints while we were driving. We don't know how old those were, but our glacier guide told us a story about how 30 years ago some kids carved their name into the moss, and it's still there to this day.
Yeah, it's pretty sensitive. So we saw that, and then we started to see elevation in the distance as we were driving. And those mountains would get closer and taller, and then we could start to see the glaciers on them, as you'll see in some of this footage here. So let's talk about it for some of you that aren't northern folk or don't live in a place with glaciers. So what is a glacier? Well, it's a flow of ice.
What kind of ice?
So snow falls on top of a mountain and then compacts together because water is actually incredibly heavy.
What do you mean water's heavy?
Well, it takes about 3 meters of snow to make 1 centimeter of that blue glacier ice that's so iconic. It compacts a lot and then it'll flow down the mountainside. It'll actually flow under its own weight because it's so heavy, and it's like a slow river down the side of the mountain, carving it out and pushing soil and rock actually on top of the glacier as well as underneath it. So think of it like your boot scraping across the ground where there's rock, and yeah, it'll dig into the ground and you'll get soil formation underneath your foot, but you'll also get some soil that'll come up on top of your foot as well. Just all of that pushing weight that sort of happens with the glacier.
Yeah, over a long period of time, it creates a shallow U-shaped valley, and you'll see them all over the island where glaciers used to be. As the climate has been warming, the glaciers have been melting and receding, and they're leaving behind giant glacier lakes.
And these glacial lakes are usually called glacial end moraine lakes in the geology world, which a moraine is just kind of a fancy way of saying dirt pile at the end of the glacier. And a lot of the times these dirt piles or moraines are holding these little glacial lakes back because the glacier used to come all the way up to that point. It's where the end of the foot used to be in that previous example, and now it's no longer there because it's melted back a little bit. So now we get these little lakes that are there.
It was actually so warm on our hike, we showed up with all of our winter gear, including our special snow boots we bought just for this hike. And when we got there, the guide looked at us and asked us, "Are you parked nearby?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "You need to go put all that stuff up or you're gonna die."
And it was because of how warm it was. It was pretty warm in the valley. I mean, about, what would you say, 75 degrees in the valley? I mean, it was a very warm day. And you'll actually see in some of the footage here, I had to take my base layer off because it was so warm. The weather was absolutely perfect and clear, which is a little bit unusual for Iceland. So our guide took us as high as we could possibly go up the glacier that day. It was about 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius on the actual glacier that day. So yeah, it was some really exciting footage. So we'll go ahead and let you enjoy the rest of the drive to the national park, and then we'll join you again to talk about some of the glacier gear. Welcome to Glacier Hike Day. Grab your ice pick and ice crampons and let's get to climbing. It was either of our first time using a lot of the gear, most of which you'll see here will be for safety.
Yeah, at base camp, they gave us a helmet, which was so you don't scrape your head on the rock. And they also gave us a harness, which just in case you fell into an ice crevice, they could crane you out of it. Some of those ice crevices were 20 or 30 feet deep. They also gave us some ice picks, which looked a lot like rock hammers, but they were mainly for photo purposes. They were also worked very well as trekking poles, and you could use them, as you'll see me in the clip, using it as kind of a walking stick over the ice.
Yeah, and especially me being shorter, I used a lot of the ice picks to kind of grab myself up and over some of these slopes every once in a while. And yeah, the ice crevasses could go all the way down to the base of the glacier if you had enough snow melt. So luckily nobody fell into any of those. We're good to go, but to have the gear in case they needed to lift you out was good to have. And the last really cool piece of gear we're going to see are what are called these ice crampons, which are these big spike plates that sit under your hiking boots to give you traction on the ice, because walking on ice is very difficult without those. And we'll have John go ahead and walk us through how we put those on, because we both had to learn it while we were out there. First time both doing that.
So these were pre-sized at the base camp. The first thing you want to do is take your strap, make sure there are no twists in it, and go under and through the front hook. Then you come around to the rear, also making sure there's no twists, and then you loop over and there's a double D-ring, and you got to get it between the two D-rings, make sure there's no twists, and then pull it tight. It's quite easy once you have them sized.
And with that, we'll let you go ahead and enjoy the rest of our glacier climb. We'll see you in the next video. How is it?
It's cold.
Is it refreshing though?
It actually doesn't have a flavor.
Oh.
I don't even think it has many electrolytes in it.